push that button.
Yeah.
I have no clue where my clicker just went.
Is it in the ice chest?
Is it right
That's
up
what
there?
I just looked for.
Right here.
That's what,
What's
where?
that right up there?
Remote.
You got
Ah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh,
my
no.
It's a good day.
Her hands are better than that. Right, Nancy?
That's right. Oh, yeah. Now tell me, have you been on a fire?
You're off?
today?
I
Where's
was
the
on,
start?
not today.
Oh, good.
No, I took the day off.
Okay, because I wondered, they're
Dr.
talking
Andrew?
about a forest.
Oh, they're
It's
everywhere.
nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
Get comfortable. We're just getting set up here.
So
This
do
time
you,
of year, I'm either busy or I'm wanting to be busy. Either I'm so busy I want a day off. or
Welcome.
I'm so bored
Thank
I
you.
want to be busy.
Riding like
Can I get you a
Pretty
drink?
real, right?
Water
This
would be
stuff is
wonderful,
a-
thanks.
a
Yeah,
farmer.
that's one of the reasons I'm getting out of
Whoops.
it. It's been a real, when I was young, it was so fun. But it's cost me so much. I mean, I haven't gardened in 30 years.
because
You know,
you're,
and I love to garden.
because your summer is
Because I'm
so
always
busy.
on call.
Yeah.
No sense starting a garden.
I don't have a garden because every time I'd have a garden, it was like halfway through the season it'd die.
Mhm.
Or it'd be just getting ready to pick and all of a sudden I'd come out and it'd be all mowed down by
Yeah,
deer.
by
And I'm
deer.
like, you know what, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like this
Yeah.
is the most frustrating thing I've ever done in my life.
I've been voluntarily helping a guy that has an organic farm out in Tumalo once in a while just to remember what it's like to be kneeling with the soil and good people. And it's so cool. It's so
I have great compost if anybody wants any. It's awesome. But I don't garden, so I just keep tumbling it, making new stuff, but yeah. Well, welcome. I'm Dr. Ashley. I'm one of the owners and chiropractors here at Pangea. The reason I want to talk about thoughts, traumas, and toxins, Nancy's a patient here. Nancy, why do I want to talk about thoughts, traumas, and toxins?
Because we all have problems with thoughts, traumas, and toxins. I mean, I've had enough traumas in the last year to take care of a lot of people.
What's the one thing in our office that we adjust?
Our back,
Are you going to say the word?
our spine, and not there yet.
She's there. Subluxations.
Oh, subluxation. Yeah, isn't that funny? Because I was even looking at it then. I'm thinking, I gotta remember this word.
So, subluxations are the one thing in our office that we adjust. It's the one thing that we take care of here. So, a subluxation is the misalignment in the nervous system or in the spine that puts either pressure onto a nerve or it irritates a nerve. Not full-fledged like foot on a garden hose, but it changes the neurological flow between the brain and the body, or the brain out to every single cell, tissue, and organ in the body. With a subluxation, you can decrease nerve supply up to 60% without having any signs or symptoms whatsoever. So it doesn't matter what it's going to. I said it goes to every single cell, tissue, and organ in the body. So here's how this can happen and you can have no signs or symptoms. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you take a deep breath and you're like, lung, why aren't you filling to full capacity right now? Why aren't you working at 100% capacity right now? Is that what we do? We're not like spleen. Spleen like feels like it's working about 40% right now. I think it's time to get adjusted. That's not what we do, right? A lot of times it comes down to pain or discomfort. The hard part about the nervous system is that only about 10 to 30% of our nerves are for pain and discomfort. That means the other 70 to 90% of the nerves goes out to all the other organs and systems in the body. So, a subluxation, if left for a long period of time, it puts the body into a state of dis-ease or dysfunction, and then if you leave it long enough, eventually full-fledged disease. So the reason we look at thoughts, traumas, and toxins is because thoughts, traumas, and toxins are the three things that cause subluxations, or if you don't want to say that word, misalignments within the spine, or neurological dysfunction between them. This is one of my favorite quotes from B.J. Palmer. B.J. Palmer was the developer of chiropractic. He wasn't the originator of it. He wasn't the discoverer of it. I mean, people have been adjusting each other or manipulating spines for thousands of years, but the Palmers were the first family to bring it into a full-fledged profession, study it, and then B.J. Palmer said, while other professions are concerned with changing the environment to suit the weakened body, chiropractic is concerned with strengthening the body to suit the environment. And for so long, it was very, 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 very true. When B.J. Palmer was around, it was probably 1918 to about 1930 is when he was really in his heyday. The difference between 1920s and 1930s is some of the harshest stuff you could get into was some lead paint, yes. Some alcohol, yes. Tobacco, yes. But is it the same tobacco that's around today? No, not mixed with all these other carcinogens, not mixed with the nicotine. So in his heyday, all he was trying to do was make sure that the nervous system was completely open, flowing the way that it was supposed to, so that every cell, tissue, and organ was getting all the nerve supply it could possibly get. And then from there, he said these stressors that were coming in, the body would be able to adapt to it more readily. The hard part is that in our day and age, the amount of thoughts, traumas, and toxins are just astronomically, exponentially larger than they were back then. So I'm going to go through trauma. Trauma, I think, is probably one of the easiest ones to, it's the easiest one to understand. So when you talk about misalignments within the spine, I think people understand trauma, right? I mean, look at this guy right here. This is a lot of the tech world as we speak. That guy has severe subluxations that are happening. So there's subluxations or misalignments that can happen from big traumas, macro traumas, a car accident, a whiplash, right? Causing ligament damage, tendon damage, causing muscles to fire, causing misalignments in the spine. But the more constant one that's happening right now is micro traumas. So you guys were just talking about sitting at a desktop computer. Sitting at that desktop computer in our day and age is probably one of the biggest micro traumas that happens, because it happens over and over and over and over again. Our ancestors were running, jumping, kicking, playing, doing all these things, but their traumas were usually big things. A sprain, a fall, a this, that, or the other. Ours are usually smaller things that we do in our day-to-day. Driving for consistent periods of time, sitting on a computer, hunching forward. After sitting at the computer all day, then what do we decide to come home and do?
Slouch on the couch.
Slouch on the couch, right? So it goes from having an activity at work of sitting and being stagnant and causing weakness within the body, and then going home and having an activity that causes weakness and stagnant motion within the body. And motion is life. So microtrauma is one of the biggest contributors of misalignments and causing neurological dysfunction in our day and age. I have all these different examples, anything from carrying a person on the same side to a mom carrying a child on the exact same side. I almost always know if a woman was a mother, because when I see their pelvis on x-ray, I can see one misalignment and then I'll see another misalignment. And one of those misalignments is the pelvis will, it can shift side to side as far as going forward and back. So anytime I'm looking at an x-ray, I almost always know if she's had children or not, because they have a chronic issue of having the pelvis shifted off to the side. And whether their children's 20 or whether they're 3 weeks old, it was that repetition over and over and over of holding somebody on one side and then doing things with the other side. And I usually know which side they were holding them on to. Crossing the legs, computer monitor for long periods of time. So trauma is one of the easiest ones to understand, how it can cause a misalignment. And in our day and age, they're prevalent. And mostly because, how do I say this? Mostly because we're weak. That's the best way I can say it. A lot of chiropractors will set up and they'll do like backpack screenings. I'm in Nepal and I'm walking up a mountain and this kid's carrying a bed on his back and he's hiking mountain. Are our kids hurt and not functioning properly because of our heavy backpacks? No. Our kids aren't functioning properly because they spend their free time sitting for long periods of time, they have poor diets, and they're bombarded with the amount of toxins in our society. So toxins, this one's big. Toxins can disrupt homeostasis. So homeostasis, you're always on a continuum, right? So here's health and wellness, and then here's sickness and disease, and you're always on this steady continuum. Homeostasis, the definition that you would look at is cells that are functioning properly. What can happen with toxins is that it disrupts homeostasis, and these cells become bombarded with things in the environment that it doesn't know how to adapt to. These imbalances can cause muscle contractions that will change the length of the fiber of that muscle and it will pull a bone out of place. And I'm going to go through it when we talk about thoughts. It's because everyone's like, okay, so shouldn't we focus on the muscle then? If the muscle is what shortens and pulls a bone out of place to disrupt the nervous system? Yes, but the muscle is still the afterthought, because what told the muscle to brace itself and prepare for what was coming in? And that's the nervous system as a whole. So you want to take pressure off of it in order for it to tell the muscle what to do. So some of the biggest thoughts, I want to look at new nervous system disorders, because I think a lot of new nervous system disorders are coming from our toxic environment. Anything from fibromyalgia to autism to ADHD, bipolar fatigue, trigeminal neuralgia, a lot of them are linked to heavy metal toxicity. So a lot of our heavy metals come in anywhere from mercury fillings to vaccines that we're giving, whether it's a flu shot or whether it's the X number that we're putting into our children, sugars, and then another big one are genetically modified foods. Genetically modified foods, they've studied these rats over and over and over again. These rats were fed genetically modified corn from Monsanto. So the first rat, see, they both have tumors. This one has one here. I cut it off. I didn't need to, but this one has a massive tumor right here. This one was fed the actual corn that was sprayed both with Roundup, which has, okay.
And it's Roundup resistant.
And it's Roundup resistant as well. So it's kind of a double whammy, and it has this massive tumor on it. They found that those mice were passing away from kidney failure and liver failure exponentially earlier than the other mice.
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate is horrendous, and glyphosate on top of mercury, so it's hard because they still put mercury in a lot of vaccines. Those two combined just wreaks havoc on the blood-brain barrier and on the brain as well, for as far as brain swelling goes.
Most of our wheat has 2,4-D spray.
Uh-huh.
Lots of bad stuff.
I mean, we're one of the only countries, I mean, China won't take our food anymore. I mean, there's so many countries that won't even take any of our crops anymore because of this issue right here. This mouse, there was a French scientist, and what he decided to do with various mice was he took one and he just fed them the genetically modified seed, and then he took the other and he just fed them the safe amount of glyphosate or Roundup Ready, and he put that into their water. So everything he gave them was safe by the United States standards, and every single mouse in there had tumors riddled throughout the body. And shortened lifespans by, I don't remember how much, but it was exponentially shortened. Air pollution, so here's how it happens. So this is a tiny bit tough because it was designed for essentially my patients so they could figure out where things are coming from. When they have misalignments happen over and over and over again, they can figure out whether it's coming from a thought, a trauma, or a toxin. So here's how air pollution can disrupt the nervous system. So let's say you're someone that has C2 come up, and then you have T3. So C2 is right here. It's at the very base of the neck or very base of the skull, and then a T3, which would be about right here. When you go back to this guy, he also has exponential amount of stress right here, and he has an exponential amount of stress right here. But let's say it's coming from a toxin. So let's say every single time you breathe and you're outside, and take a breath in, and it's a day where they have incredibly high pollen counts. So when that pollen is breathed in through the nose, and then it goes into the lung to be processed and filtered, if it happens over and over and over and over again, it causes disruption in the body if the body is already super toxic, and it becomes hard for it to handle. Have you ever known anybody that's developed allergies as an adult?
Oh, yeah.
So allergies as an adult, I know people don't want to hear this, but allergies as an adult a lot of times has to do with a toxic liver not being able to process things fast enough. So especially allergies, because our body was designed, there's such a huge filtration system before it even gets to the liver when it comes to the air. So if you start developing allergies as an adult, a lot of times it comes down to a liver toxicity. And then this is kind of the chicken and the egg. So they know that they happen both at the same time, but if there's a misalignment, let's say it was a birth trauma, up high is C2. C2 goes to your mucosal membranes in the nose. Let's say there's a misalignment up there and the mucosal membranes are only functioning at 40%, right? Or let's say they're even functioning at 50%. They're functioning at 50%, so they're not pulling stuff as much as they should, or they're not developing enough mucus as much as they should for you to be able to blow that stuff out or release some of it. So now it goes into the lung. Let's say your lungs are free and clear, like subluxation-wise, it's functioning the way that it's supposed to, but by the time it gets to the liver, if the liver is already processing alcohol, if the liver is already processing genetically modified foods, if the liver is already processing things that we're sensitive to in any way, shape, or form, and sensitivities can come in a lot of different, you can eat a food and feel a little lethargic, more than likely you're probably sensitive to it.
Over-the-counter medication.
Over-the-counter medication, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If the liver is already processing so many things, it puts it on a hierarchy and that pollen that's coming in, not making the list. So now it gets dumped straight into the blood system. And when that happens, there's these big, huge molecules floating through the blood system, and the body says, these are not supposed to be here, and it creates this allergic reaction, or it creates inflammation within the body. So it's hard, because if, let's say it's a pollutant from air, a lot of times your subluxations are gonna be C2, which if you're okay, Nancy, C2 is a major one for you. So C2, lungs will come up quite a bit, and then the liver will be the other one, so kind of this area and this area. Let's say it's food. Let's say it's something that you're eating over and over and over again. That one, again, a lot of times you have to come back to the liver, but then the other place you need to go is you need to go stomach, and if it's a sugar handling issue, you gotta look at your pancreas. So every time, whenever we start a patient out, they get a list of all their major subluxations based off of their exam, their x-ray, or scans. So they get a list so they know what things are affecting them, so they can figure out why it keeps coming up. So from that, if they go and they look on their list and they're like, all right, my pancreas, my T8, my T7, T8 come up all the time. A lot of times it has to do with a food toxicity, and a lot of times it has to do with too much sugar being consumed.
Sugar's bad.
Sugar is a bad one. It's tough.
And I mean, there's so many people that think fruit juice and think that all these things are healthy and think alcohol is healthy, and that's just sugar alcohol. I mean, it's
right.
Because I train people, and it'd be like, well, what are we going to do in order to get to the North Star? Well, I won't give up alcohol. Well, okay, how much do you drink? 5 beers a night. Well, you're not going to make it.
I always like to add something in.
Yeah, right.
I always try to ask people, I'm like, what's your non-negotiable?
Yeah.
What's the one thing, anytime you're trying to change
That's what I
something,
do,
it's like, all right, what's the one thing you can't give up? And like, I can't give up beer and pizza. And I was like, no. What's the one thing you can't give up?
Right.
And so if it's beer, it's like, perfect. Before you have that beer, you have to have a salad, or you have to drink 2 glasses of water, and then you can have a
And
beer.
you need to exercise directly. Anyway, with
Well,
beer.
I don't drink beer, but that's the idea, you have to drink
Always
a couple.
adding something is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather add something in than taking things away, because it feels too like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that to people, because no one wants to follow that.
I was
If I
lucky.
can add something. then-
Okay, so I like Coke, and I have drank Coke all my life.
Nancy, the camera's on. You can't say something.
Can't say
Just joking. Coca-Cola. I'm just joking. Just kidding, everybody. She's just talking about soda.
But
But it's
Coca-Cola.
so poison water.
I know it
Yeah.
is.
We know
So,
what it
but
is.
if I drank 2 glasses of water before I drank my Coke,
so
I'd be better off.
You'd love that.
100% would be 10 times better off.
Okay.
The Coke is super acidic, and it pulls calcium from your bones. So somebody that's already
Compromised.
a female. I mean, you got a lot of things against you.
Yeah.
You're white. You're a female. You're a smaller stature as far as height wise. I mean, there's a lot of nicks
Yeah.
kind of against you when it comes to osteoporosis. And
I was
having-
looking for an excuse to still drink Coke.
and having-
And
I
the
I got
bone density,
nothing.
increasing exercise too.
100%.
Yeah.
And so
I was lucky. I was married to a diabetic, so I haven't had sugar in my house in like 19 years.
Oh.
TV, sugar, all gone. Right.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that period of time. So I mean, other than sugar, alcohol, I just quit that this year. So I just it's been. But anyway.
I had to. She forced me. I didn't want to, but having that baby, I was like, I guess I'm done with everything.
Yeah.
You were
I guess
done.
I'm done with everything I,
I feel
love.
so good.
Coffee gone.
It's not about
Oh no, I still
It's
have
never
my
about
coffee.
me.
I still have my coffee, but I do organic coffee. So.
That's fair. That's fair. But when it comes to other stuff, I mean, water in general. So what's chlorine made to do?
Kill everything.
Kill bacteria, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when we take water and we drink it? What happens to our gut flora and our gut bacteria?
Goes away.
100%. So when you see things kind of coming up over and over and over, if stomach is one of them coming up, we have to repopulate. We have to get things more balanced out down there in order for us to handle some of those toxins that are coming in. Or you remove it, right?
Yeah.
So remove it and then rebuild it. So you have to remove whatever the toxicity is, and then whatever it's been causing you to be deficient in, because pretty much all disease comes down to toxicity and deficiency. Whatever is causing you to become deficient in, make sure that you become sufficient in that. Plastic bottles and BPA, we all know it's a carcinogen, it causes cancer. They also found that BPA causes a gene to turn on, and it turns on an obesity gene, and it will do that for multiple generations. So
My
BPA
fire
is
bottles are
nasty.
non-BPA.
They should
Those,
be.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we
right?
use. That's all I use. But yeah. So
It needs to be, because that's not something you can keep consuming and putting into your system.
Yeah.
Females, especially because they pass that on
Onto
to
the
the
And
children.
BPA is inside the lining of tin cans too.
Yep, it is. So that's the other hard part
So
too. A lot
you
of
can get
times,
vegetables that look healthy.
if the can will say BPA free,
Yeah.
like right on it, they know that that's what people want, so that's what they start
Yeah.
doing. And then food preparation's huge. If the food is not living, if you microwave it, if it's been packaged, you're eating dead food. So having dead food makes you sufficient and stuff, and if you're sufficient, if you don't have the vitamins and minerals that you need, pulling toxins out of the system becomes exponentially tougher. Okay?
Yeah.
So toxicity, if it's from air, you'll see certain things come up, mucosal membranes, lung, liver. If it's food, a lot of times you'll see stomach, sometimes you'll see tonsils come up. If you consume something, does everyone still have their tonsils? Yeah.
No, I don't.
They're a mess, but I have them.
You have them?
Yeah.
So a lot of times if you eat food, have you ever, it's gross, have you ever poked at your tonsil and saw stuff come out of
Oh,
them?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means you're eating something that you're sensitive to. Because the tonsil is the first line of defense against anything that comes into the body. So if you, every time you, let's say I'm sensitive to milk because I am, or actually, I'll make it real life. Brewer's yeast and baker's yeast, terrible sensitivity to it. It makes me congested, like I can feel inflammation almost happening instantaneously. Gluten-free doesn't matter if it has yeast, that's what it is. And as soon as I go and I eat it, not like immediately, but that next morning when I wake up, you can push my tonsils and stuff will come out of it. That stuff, that white stuff that stink, white blood cells that are
Right.
dead trying to attack whatever it is that was coming into
Really?
your system. Yeah. A lot of people get their tonsils removed for that. Did we take care of the issue?
No, because
No.
it just goes on down then.
It continues to
doesn't-
move through.
Yeah.
When I was going to college, I was working, for a logging company in John Day, and the soil, tamarack soil, this thick with the rubber-tired skidders dragging logs through there, and so you're breathing constantly this just cloud of dust every time somebody did anything, and I'd look like Frankenstein. I mean,
They would
it
get
was just
so-
so
Because he
swollen.
gets.
Yeah.
And just white, just like you're saying, you could see all the white polyps inside
Yep.
there. It was so nasty.
Yep. It was it was too much being loaded into the
And
system.
that was
Body's
just
like,
that was just inert, probably good soil. I mean,
Yeah.
it was up in the mountains. There's just too much of it.
it was just, constant bombardment.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is don't have your tonsils out.
Don't have your tonsils out. You keep your tonsils?
Some of us had, I had problems. My daughter they figured was the carrier for strep in her school. And she was on massive dosages of antibiotics. And it was one of those things, I don't know, the doctor, the pharmacist even said, this is too much for her. He said, you better call the doctor. And once she had the tonsils out, she was clean and free, but then you
That
wonder.
issue.
But then she's got allergies, so does Carol.
You nailed it. I was like, that issue is gone because now we've just removed what was showing us that there was an issue.
Uh-huh.
It's showing you that there's something going on. It's showing that there's a sign. So by just removing it, it
Yeah.
doesn't really take care of the issue. It now can travel it to somewhere else.
Interesting. Okay.
The last one is thoughts, and this one's huge because thought is the number one stressor in most people's life. Here's the hard thing about thoughts. 90% of the thoughts you had yesterday are the exact same thoughts that you're having today.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my sayings is the nerves that fire together wire together. So there's a reason that we continue to have the same thoughts over and over and over and over again.
Probably for neuroplasticity.
They got
Because I've
neuroplasticity
changed.
is right. You're right, 100%.
I'm 51 years old. I'm totally different than I was at 21, where I was depressed all the time.
So that's the hard part. When the body, there's only two systems that the body has when it comes to the nervous system. You have fight or flight and you have rest and digest. The hard thing when it comes to toxins, when it comes to micro traumas or those little repetitive traumas over and over, and when it comes to toxic thoughts, whether it's fear, whether it's negativity, whether it's anxiety, whether it's whatever it may be, when we have those thoughts over and over and over again, the body doesn't know if it's coming from a physical trauma or not. All it says is, this is stress, this is stressful, I must prepare. And it takes the body out of rest and digest, where it can heal, where it can grow, where it can repair, where it can fight disease. And it puts it into a state of fight or flight. And fight or flight is incredibly important. It's what's got us this far as a species, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what got us away from saber-toothed tigers. It's what got us from the industrial age. It got us to a point where we can move and adapt and change quickly. But what's happened in our day and age is that most of us stay in a state of fight or flight for a long period of time due to all of these. There's 3 areas of the brain because of the nerves that fire together, wire together. There's 3 areas of the brain. You have the hippocampus, that comes into play and sets the center for learning. You have the amygdala that comes into play, and that's your stress and anxiety center. And then you have your hypothalamus, which is your neuroendocrine. And the neuroendocrine part of it, the nervous system affecting the hormone system, that's what causes the misalignments. Because when that cascade begins to happen, that's what sends messages back up to the brain and tells the brain, hey, take this muscle, shorten it, brace the body, brace the spine, brace it for an impact, for a fall, for a XYZ, whatever it may be. And when that happens, it takes the body out of a state of healing and growth and repair, and it puts it into a state where it's just surviving. So you went from a state of thriving and really living into a state of survival, and that's where most of us live. 100%. Cortisol, catecholamines, those are the 2. I mean, even when you look at disease and how it's gonna kind of wipe somebody from the planet, in our day and age, 50% of the room is heart disease. Of the other 50% of the room, 2/3 are cancer, and that one's exponentially growing. But the other 1/3 is obesity, type 2, like diabetes, insulin resistance. But realistically, it's cortisol and catecholamines in the body not knowing how to regulate them
We're all
anymore.
insulin resistant. We're all.
100%.
Yeah, so
Because of our sugar handling at this point in our life, and a lot of it comes down to thoughts. So here's the crazy part about thoughts, though, because thoughts in our office. So if you think it's thought-induced, which it could be, so if one thing you can do to evaluate your thoughts is you set your phone for every 15 minutes, and you go about your day, and 15 minutes goes by and your ringer goes off, and as soon as it goes off, you have to think, what was I just thinking about? And you write it down. I'm not joking. And then you set it for another 15 minutes, and you go about your day. So you do it probably 2 days at work, 1 day home, like on a weekend, so you can see how your work thoughts are different from your weekend thoughts, or if they're similar. And you can use it to evaluate your thoughts, whether it comes from disgust, whether it comes from grief, whether it comes from repressed grief, whether it comes from fear, whether it comes from anxiety, whether it's due to money, you guys get it? I have another sheet though, and that sheet can show you how those thoughts will affect the nervous system, because certain emotion goes to certain organs because of vibrational frequency. So certain emotions affect certain organs, and a lot of times if you have an emotion that comes up over and over and over again, oh yeah, Grandpa, you will find it on that chart and you're like, holy smokes, that is one that's affecting me. Almost every time. Yeah.
So it's weird. It's a unique lifestyle. When I was a kid, I had like a 3rd world upbringing with a lot of abuse, a lot of foster homes.
Yeah.
And then I pretty much removed myself from that culture and just popped myself in the middle of firefighting after I got out of the Army. And then working in sawmills in the wintertime. And so what I did was I answered a 3rd world problem with 3rd world answers. I ran and I worked my tail off, pulling 200-300 pound boards by the thousands every day and jogging back and forth to work. And that got me to a point where I could start learning how to think at the same time, because society's answer, because I went to therapy 25 years ago, I'm going to therapy now too, but it's not there's no drugs in it. But the answer that I was given at 21, because I was depressed, was, we're going to give you some psychotropic drugs.
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't take them. I just won't take them, you know. Well, you're going to end up a tongue-chewing, babbling idiot in jail. And I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So I just knew I got every self-help book. I overdosed on Wayne Dyer. You know, I just hit it hard.
Yeah.
At the same time, being sure to drink lots of good water, eat lots of organic food, you know, and be always up in the mountains, just pour sweat out of my body, and finally that took the edge off of the psychosomatic stuff, and then I was able to slowly over the course of the next 30 years turn into a positive person.
Yeah.
And I think that prepared me for old age, because that's the next thing I'm going to go through.
Yeah,
I won't be able to run. I just ran 25 miles today. Well, ran and walked. I won't be able to do that in 20 years, right? And so,
Maybe you will.
well, maybe I will.
You might
Take
be
care
able
of
to.
Yeah,
yourself,
maybe I will.
husband.
But what I'm saying is, I've because of handling it in a non-first world answers, I'm ready for a first world retirement now, where I don't think I would have been if I would have handled it in the first world answer. Overeating, over drinking, medication,
Yep.
sitting, TV, all that stuff, right?
And the medication doesn't address the root of
Right,
the
no,
problem.
no,
either.
No.
and I needed to deal with that,
Mhm.
and I still do. I go to therapy now, which is good for me. It's great, right? But anyway,
Do you know something that made you different than most people though?
Hmm.
Is that you took action.
well, I had to. I didn't have a safety net, so if something bad happened,
You're in America. There's always a
yeah,
safety
but I
net.
didn't. I refused because I was raised by a guy that was
I
born
was
in
like-
1919.
Yeah.
That was a first generation American from Norway.
Yep.
Never missed a day's work. I couldn't get on public assistance.
That's fair.
I had
I
no
was like-
family, and so I had only me. I always had to think, oh my God, I need 14 cans of food, I need $1,000 of savings, and I can't rest until I have those things, right? You know, just and so.
You bring up a very excellent point, and I think that's one of the last things that I want to touch on as we talk about thoughts. So, when it comes to thoughts, you have four different pathways of thoughts. 3 of them are subconscious, meaning below the surface, meaning we don't consciously think of them. Where only one of the pathways is conscious thought. So you know if you're angry, right? Here's the hard part about thoughts for a lot of people, not only the 90% or anything like that, but conscious thought works at about 20 megabits of information. Let me see. I wrote this down like 2 seconds ago because I was reading through information. 40 bits of information per second, where subconscious thought does 20 million bits of information per second. So a lot of times when something's going to happen, you know it before the conscious mind knows it. Someone's going to walk around that corner, I know that it's happening before it actually happens, even though the conscious mind hasn't registered it yet.
Right, that makes sense.
So here's the cool part about every time you go to get adjusted, so this is, sorry, I have to address this and answer really quick. Every time you go to get adjusted and you lay down on that table, as soon as we go and adjust you, it actually invokes a pattern interrupt. That pattern interrupt opens new neurological pathways, and you use that time to start retraining the brain. So when people go and they find, and I have a list if you want it, Nancy, when they find what emotion is causing certain misalignments or causing disruptions within that nervous system, they take that time, and let's say it's repressed grief, and then they're like, okay, I figured out what was going on. I figured out the scenario where this is kind of stemmed from, whether it's someone that raised you, whether it's a situation that happened, whatever it may be. And every time I come to that certain area in that spine, you have basically 3 ways that you have to kind of deal with it, with this pattern interrupt to get new neurological pathways open. You have to either give forgiveness while it's happening, so it's full submersion in forgiving as that pathway opens. You can do it via a mantra. So if you know the emotion, you have to do 100% the opposite emotion, and you have to almost say a mantra to yourself. So if it's fear, I have fear about X, Y, Z. It would be like, I have freedom for whatever it may be.
Everything always
Kind of
works out
understand you.
well for me, whatever.
100%. You use that mantra, or you create understanding. So understanding and forgiveness, I think forgiveness is a little more healing, but sometimes understanding is just as good. Walking in somebody else's shoes, maybe you're not all the way there. I'm not all the way there to forgive you yet. But understanding where they're coming from, and maybe understanding is more healing.
Well, forgiving is a process.
It is a process. But taking that understanding and saying, okay, I understand where they were coming from. I understand that this was going on during this time, and accepting that and
That's
taking
hard
that.
to do.
I know it is.
Those
It's
are
really hard to do.
They are.
I mean, one of the things that I learned, and I delved into Zen Buddhism, and that's one of the things, the mantra thing. Really.
Yeah.
But one of the things they suggest is that you go on a meditative walk with an abuser or somebody that you're having difficulty with. And so I have this foster mother that was really abusive, and I picture her in a meditation as a 7-year-old little daughter that needs love and compassion. So I get to visit her as a 7-year-old little girl crying that never got love and compassion. And she was my abuser, right?
Yeah.
And so I get to hug her, and that's part of the process.
Yeah.
The other is walking with her through the world with love and compassion. And so these are processes. It took years of these kind of activities.
Yeah.
And then zazen, which is oh, a thought and letting it go. Oh, a thought and letting it go. Oh, a thought and letting it go. Oh, a resentment. No big deal. Oh, a happy thought and letting it go. Whatever. And all those things combine to bring forgiveness to me. You just don't go, oh, I forgive that guy.
No, you don't.
No.
Right.
But when you consciously do that over and over and over, guess what it becomes? It becomes subconscious. You don't even have to think about it anymore. That's just where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's where you are. And you can use your nervous system to help re-educate the entire body and the brain.
Nice.
So the things to do to combat the 3 T's, adjustments, obviously, to help combat traumas. The hard part is that the subluxations cause the body to not function fully the way that it's supposed to, so it actually can't adapt to the thoughts and the traumas and the toxins as effectively as it could. When those thoughts, traumas, and toxins cause the body to not function the way that it's supposed to, it becomes this full circle. You see what I'm saying? It causes the subluxation. Subluxation causes the body to downplay itself. Now it can't even function the way that it's supposed to before because it can't handle X, Y, and Z, and it becomes this vicious circle. Whole body exercise, like you were just saying, it's whole body mind exercise. It's actually taking a walk, and you can do the things that we were just talking about with thoughts, and you can do that through a physical activity. One of my favorite things to do in the morning is wash dishes, and it's because it's mindless.
Me too. I love that.
I love
Yeah.
it. It's my favorite thing to do. I will take dishes out of the dishwasher.
Water, this, oh, I just
Yeah,
oh, because I don't have a dishwasher, so mine's just
I do, and I'll take things out of it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
What I thought I
Therapy
didn't, what I
time,
thought I
take
didn't
time.
have time for, because that's what it is, right? You're just
You know,
like,
and
I'll put
that
it
is
out,
the
type
mindless
this.
thing that you can do.
It's so
It's
mindless.
unloading the
Perfect.
dishwasher
It's so
when I do that.
kinesthetic.
It's like
so perfect.
my mind is,
gosh.
you know,
It's clear.
is
But I hate
clear.
folding
It's just
clothes.
relaxed.
Should
It's
also-
a task.
should
Yeah.
also
Could also
be-
be cathartic, right?
Positive and loving thoughts, again, it's something that we have to work on. As a society, it's
Oh,
something
man.
we have to work on. And all that contributes to creating high quality input into the nervous system so that the nervous system can have a high quality output into the earth, into the environment. Constructive input enhances healing, growth, balance, function, repair, and leaves you in a state of homeostasis so you can basically take on anything that you need. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Okay.
If
That was
any
awesome.
of those, thank you. If any of those resonate with you, we take them deeper in other classes. So I have a full thoughts class, I have a full trauma class, and I have a full toxins class. And so I think the toxins class sometimes get people like wholly overwhelmed.
Yes.
I like being overwhelmed.
Oh,
I
no,
think it's just taking one step at a time. It's like
it's
just
very
just saying
overwhelming,
it's okay.
believe me.
Yeah.
That-
I've
I
that's
been
think it's just
overwhelming
saying
myself.
it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it is what it is.
You retain what
That's
you
how we
retain.
can go about this.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
oldest
I mean,
son
so-
got married in Ethiopia last year.
Wow.
It was the most